Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Once in a while you have a story with a local angle that's hard to believe. Imagine it's your first varsity game. You've got enough talent just to make the team, and you come up in a key situation against a strong rival with an opportunity to win the game. And that's what happened the other day as Melrose hosted Reading. Reading, one of the top 10 softball teams in the area. And in the last inning, Stephanie Crovo, freshman, hit a walk-off home run to win the game. I can't imagine anything like it, and it's going to be hard to go up from there for her softball career.
What was the score, 10-9?
10-9.
And Reading usually has tremendous pitching. I mean, you know, every year I've seen them. And in 2 years, a little sister comes up there, Victoria.
Well, I know.
And they have the two of them in the lineup.
Well, imagine, you know, most of the time your parents are probably working. Softball's a daytime sport. Yeah. So you go home and parents say, how'd the game go? Oh, it went pretty well. How'd you do? Oh, walk-off home run to win. Oh. Unbelievable.
That is unreal.
And Steve Wall's the coach, so he's got to be really happy, excited. Well, there's been a lot happening in sports lately. Some good, some not so good. First, we've been very positive, so we have to flip on the negative switch here. Bobby Petrino. Petrino is one of the great offensive minds in college football and had a brief stint in professional football. Everywhere he's gone, the offense has flourished, points have gone up. They just say he's really great with the X's and O's. Well, maybe not so good with the motorcycle.
Oh, he just didn't, you know, it's unbelievable, Ron. You see it in politics. People that are in great situations, like he's in tremendous situations. He's at Arkansas. Arkansas was one of the better teams in the country.
I think they won the Cotton Bowl this year.
And he goes and does something stupid like that. Now, this person here, who was on the motorcycle with him, was the fiancée of the strength and conditioning coach, wasn't she?
I thought it was a swimming coach.
Swimming coach?
But in any event, Bobby Petrino was making $3.7 million a year. Probably most of the time, 51-year-old men are not that attractive to 25-year-old women if they're not making $3.7 million a year. But in any event, two numbers stand out. Number one is $20,000, and that's how much of a cash payment apparently she'd gotten from Petrino in the past. And number two is 159. There were 159 applicants for the student-athlete development coordinator position that she got. Well, I've heard it said there would have been 158 lawsuits against Arkansas among the people who didn't get that job, as she was handpicked by Petrino and only hired on March 28th.
Right, and he has his house on the market now. He's looking for $2.5 million. So, I mean, to be in that situation and screw up the way he did.
Well, and you wonder, you know, everywhere he's gone, the programs have been immensely successful at Louisville, Arkansas. And you have to say, is some other athletic director out there saying, well, you know, we really need a good coach, and he's really an outstanding fundraiser. You know, maybe he's got this little flaw, but you know, we have to look at this differently.
I think in maybe 2 years that'll happen, but not right away. They'll stay away from him this year and next year. But you know, he'll get another job in a couple of years.
I think that's right. Now, we've just had the NCAA basketball tournament. Talk about the women's first, and only because of the stark distinction in Baylor winning the national championship, and lo and behold, barely a week later, 3-year probation for men's and women's basketball.
It's unreal. I mean, it was like 1,000 phone calls or something like that, and
phone calls, text messages. You know, well, I don't understand who's tracking that anyway, but I know we've gone over before how many compliance officers these schools have. And now I saw an article in the paper yesterday saying some sophomore, I think she was a lacrosse player, has committed to Harvard. Well, how'd she get into the school so far? Who admitted her? I mean, well, I don't get it. You know, the NCAA has very strict rules on what sort of contact you're allowed at what point in your academic career. Probably, mostly it's ignored.
Right, and that's where the problem with Auriemma a few years ago, when he got Maya Moore, there were complaints about him making too many phone calls, you know, but they never proved anything in regard to him. But Baylor came up with the punishment, and the NCAA went along with it, 3-year probation. But with 3-year probation, you're still able to go to the tournaments, though, right, Ron?
I don't know. I presume you can't.
Well, I mean, a lot of the girls' teams will love that.
Well,
Griner not being able to play next year in the tournament if that happens.
right. I don't understand. I mean, if you can still go to the tournament, what's the penalty? Now, I know that in some instances it's been reduction of the number of games you can play during the regular season. Now, women's basketball is not a big moneymaker,
Right.
up until the postseason, but certainly interesting. And obviously, UConn just couldn't make it this year.
No, they Tiffany Hayes, she was the only senior in the team. Very good athlete, really quick to the basket, can rebound as a guard. I mean, very good athlete. She just comes up with the worst games and the biggest games run. Last year, the same thing. She played terrible. This year, you would not believe it. I mean, she just felt the pressure. Everything she did was wrong. She couldn't do one thing right. She'd go in with a wide open layup and the ball would bounce off her knee. It was just unbelievable. And she felt the pressure. But you know what happens,
Well,
Ron?
Notre Dame plays good defense,
Yeah, but
too.
Oriana puts the pressure on you, too. Like, they lost that girl, Del Don, from Delaware, one of the top 5 players in the country, 6'5". If they had her the last 2 years, they would have won the national championship the last 2 years with her. But she left because originally, that first summer she was with UConn, she just felt there was just too much pressure in that program. So she went to transfer to Delaware, played volleyball and basketball. Well, here you could see Tiffany Hayes just had way too much pressure on her. Every time she touched the ball, I mean, she just turned it over so many times. And that's what really discouraged me because they really outplayed Notre Dame. I mean, they had them by 2, but the key play of the game, Ron, was with 10 seconds ago, Kelly Ferris had 2 foul shots, putting UConn up by 2. They had outscored Notre Dame 8-2. So Notre Dame comes down, the point comes down, offensive foul, definite offensive foul, collides with Caroline Doty. They don't call anything. Notre Dame, they're both laying on the field. No one can get around on the court. No one can get around them. They get a rebound and lay it in. Goes into overtime, and Notre Dame wins. UConn was a way better matchup for Baylor than Notre Dame was because Notre Dame doesn't have anybody down low who can play with Griner. UConn had someone down low. They had Dolson, who could have 6'5", who would have been battling with her the whole game.
Well, even Griner was able to get by the Ogwumike sisters. So
I was surprised. I thought that Stanford would beat them, and they didn't.
No, a lot of people thought that, but Griner's an exceptional player, and it's not all height. She's got other aspects to her game. She can shoot a little bit. She's very mobile. I mean, how can you say she's mobile for a 6'8" girl? I mean, you can't compare her to anybody else.
But during the tournament, with the #1 highlight on ESPN was her dunking the ball. She's 6'8". She can dunk the ball without jumping. And they showed it like about 100 times that night. I said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, if she was 6'1", maybe that's something.
I know. That's really not probably the least important part of her game. The critical factor is she's defensive force. She alters so many shots, and she had a triple-double at one point in the tournament, and the points, rebounds, and blocks. That's how much of a force she is defensively.
But UConn's going to be the power next year again. They have Brianna Stewart coming in, 6'4", and they say she's the #1 player in the country coming out. They said if she was 5'9", she'd still be the #1 player. She can just do everything. So it's going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing her play.
And then on the men's side, Kentucky just dominated. While I was watching the game, Kansas didn't look like they had a prayer against them.
At the end of the game, Kansas outplayed them. I mean, Kentucky was choking big time, and they hit a big 3-pointer, and that was with like 2 seconds left on the time clock. They were going down. I mean, I think Kansas had cut it from 18-7, and 18-6, and you could see Kentucky was really, because they're young run. They were feeling the pressure.
Absolutely. They have had, mostly freshmen and sophomores, because apparently that's Calipari's style. You come for a year or two and then go on to the pros, and he'll reload. And in fact, we found out that Everett's Noel has just signed from out of Tilton with Kentucky, the #1 recruit in the nation.
That should be something. I mean, but what amazes me, Ron, is how he gets these kids to come his programs. When he was at Memphis, and then now at Kentucky, I mean, if I was a parent, I'd greet him right away. I mean, he's a bull artist. That's what he is.
Well, he's not selling an education.
He doesn't know the game either.
He's selling, I'll help you develop so that you can get to be a high NBA first-round draft choice. I'm not worried about whether you take class, how long you stay here. I'll get you the money.
Right. We'll play a good we'll have a good schedule. Kentucky, we're going to be sold out every night. We go on the road, we're going to be sold out. And then he coached in the pros, Calipari, so that's what parents and players are looking at too. So he's getting them, which is amazing.
And there's always plenty of personalities in sports. For example, Ozzie Guillen. Now, you're the manager of the Miami Marlins or Florida Marlins, whoever they are these days. You have a new stadium, you've got some good players. First thing you have to do is pop off about how you admire Fidel Castro.
That's what we were talking about earlier. What is wrong with some of these people? Sometimes they must think they're above everyone else. It's unbelievable. Then when he heard he was going to look, they wanted him fired. Then now he starts thinking and apologizing. Well, why did he open up his mouth in the first place? I mean, these people aren't taking his apology. I don't blame them.
Well, if you look at, let's say, two of the most recognized sports figures in the world, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. What's their opinion on anything? We don't know. They don't talk about politics. They don't talk about religion. They don't talk about anything because they don't want to offend anybody. Let's keep those dollars rolling in.
And knowing he's the coach in Miami, that's what's amazing. I mean, if he was still in Chicago, there'd be a backlash, but not like this.
Right. And obviously there's a lot of history there, and we're not going to go into that. But, as a manager, it's, well, we'll talk more about baseball later. The Masters, out of nowhere, Bubba Watson. I mean, green jacket and pink golf club.
Well, I'm a big Mickelson fan, huge. I watched it Saturday, he was unbelievable. And then Sunday, he was trying to get going in the third hole. That one shot cost him the tournament. But then you see Bubba Watson winning, hugging his mother, tears and all that. And then you're looking at it and you say, well, Mickelson has already won 3. This is going to make his life, this guy, Watson.
Right.
For the next 10 years now, he'll be able to play in it. Well, every major plus the Masters for the rest of his life, as long as he wants. Once you win there.
Well, and he's self-taught. Got kind of
a
weird
coach.
swing. I know, but they're just saying he's a guy who went
know.
out and had golf clubs and hit the ball.
But even now he doesn't have a coach.
I know.
I couldn't believe that when I heard it.
Well, and the shot that he made on the playoff out of the woods, hooking the ball to maybe 15 feet or 10 feet of the hole, unbelievable. I mean, it helped him that he was left-handed. I mean, he would have had to slice it if he were right-handed.
But it's a shame for Mickelson, though. One shot cost him. Well, he had a triple bogey on Thursday. But that triple bogey he had on, I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that.
Par 3, puts it in the woods. Then he's a lefty, tries to go out with his right, holding it with his right hand, can't get it out. Then he finally just gets it out, it almost hits him. That would have been 2 more penalty shots. So he got a triple bogey 6 on a par 3.
Yeah, there was some discussion about Bubba Watson on his key shot, whether he had moved some leaves, probably because he was looking for a place where he could swing the club without having his feet slip, but that didn't improve his lie, so I don't think that, obviously it wasn't a penalty.
No, but that's good. Something like that is good to see. That's his first major too, right?
Right. Well, tonight, not that anyone should know that, because when this airs, it won't be the Bruins opening night, but the Bruins face off against the Capitals. What do you see there?
Well, I see it's going to be a tough series. I think it's going to go 7, just like last year against the Canadians, their first series. The Bruins are the type of team that hopefully they get the breaks because Washington's going to battle them. Ovechkin's going to be tough, and they have another player who was hurt that's back healthy. I forget his name, but they say they're going to be. I think they're going to be real tough on the Bruins. They always give the Bruins a tough time.
Well, they handle the Bruins pretty well during the regular season, and of course during the White House trip when they were down in Washington, that was part of a rough patch for the Bruins.
Right. But the way I look at it is, I think they may be playing, I'm not sure, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. Philadelphia came back against Pittsburgh yesterday and beat them. They were down 3-0, beat them 4-3. If they're going to win it again this year, they're going to have a tough series against Washington. Because you could see, last year against Montreal, they started off slow. They got the momentum. They started playing better and better. They got a couple of breaks. They got through that and made them tough. Then they beat Philadelphia, I believe. And they got better and better there, in that Philadelphia series. So, and that's what they're going to need this year. Washington's going to battle them. They're not going to beat them in 4.
Well, it seems like when they go into slumps, it's because they don't score any goals. not necessarily because the defense is so bad, although at times they did struggle getting the puck out of their own end. So I look for Marchand to pick it up. He was strong in the playoffs last year.
Right.
And another player that I think always expect more from is Lucic.
Right, it's all a system. It's all like finding your identity in the playoffs. Last year, the more they played, you could see it. You could see it. When they got in that second series, that's when I said they're going to win it. I just got a feeling because you could see them. They were peaking. They were getting better and better. That Montreal series made them tougher. They got through that, and they really took off. And that's what they need from Washington. I think the same thing's going to happen. It's going to be a tough series. They're going to need breaks here and there. Thomas is going to have a real good series, or they're not going to win it. And then that'll make them stronger because they're a system team. They've got to find their identity like the Celtics are starting to do now. And and that's what will carry them through against teams like Pittsburgh or Philly, and then the Rangers. I believe they'll play the Rangers in the finals.
Right, the Rangers is a team that they've struggled with. They were able to beat them down the stretch one time.
But you know what's going to happen, Ron, though? If they don't have a tough series before the Rangers could beat them. They've got to be playing. They've got to be peaking when they play the Rangers.
Well, now that the NFL draft is approaching, a lot more stories about the Patriots. And the latest story today is that Kevin Falk hasn't officially retired. In fact, he's working out with the expectation of getting a call from the Patriots to try out again. I don't know.
Well, I'm hoping Vereen's healthy. I want to see him. I mean, everything I heard about him, as quick as Ridley looked, and we didn't think Ridley was, before we saw him real quick, we thought he was like a bulldozer runner. But I think Ridley's going to be very good. He had except for those 2 fumbles.
Right. That's what doomed him down the
You don't think he's working on it this summer?
Oh.
I'm
sure he is.
Knowing he's on one of the best teams in football, and this team's young, and this team for the next 4 or 5 years could be one of the top teams in the NFL, could go to the Super Bowl a number of times. I mean, this team could be better than the team they had when they won the 3 Super Bowls. It's a lot of luck. You know what that is.
We agree on one thing, is that with the 2 first-round draft choices they have to come away with a star, preferably on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I don't care. I mean, 2 years ago they got a lot of good picks. I mean, the 2 tight ends, the punter, the defensive end, and who else? Oh, and they had Spikes is playing better and better. Cunningham's always been hurt.
Right. Cunningham, I don't think you can expect much from. Everyone says that Carter is still limping after his surgery. So, he had a productive, I think he had 10 sacks up to the time he got hurt. But
who knows? Is Wright all done?
Yeah, I think Wright's done.
That's a shame. He had a concussion too, right?
So we'll see there. But
you're right. I mean, this year you want to see them get just one terrific player. You hope it's a defensive lineman, pass rusher, or a great linebacker. You want to see that.
It's kind of laughable. They always talk about, they've got 15 different draft analysts saying this guy's got to come here, that guy's got to come here. And who knows what Belichick's thinking. Now, there was the one story that was coming out of LSU about the player with the Wonderlic score of 4. Now, the Wonderlic is a sort of like an IQ test that they administer to players at the combine. And I believe it's a 12-minute test, 50 questions. Most players, well, for example, Benjamin Watson that the Patriots had got a 45, which is one of the all-time highs, just to answer the questions that fast. I think Brady was in the 30s. Apparently this player from LSU, and they're not supposed to release their scores, had a 4.
Is he a cornerback?
No, I'm not sure what position he plays. Anyway, he got a 4, which they said is about the equivalent of 2nd grade. Now, he gets through 2 years of LSU. If you can't read, if you can't do math problems, how do you, number one, get into college?
Well, the subjects they have there too, right? I mean, they give them these subjects where they really don't have to go to class. Well, look at Kentucky players. They're not even going to class, which is amazing. I don't know how that happens. Adams and Gilchrist, they didn't even go to class, they were saying. And then Rivers' kid at Duke's, he said he was going back to school to take a test. He went to watch one of the Celtic games. But everybody's saying, well, what's he even doing there if he's supposed to be in school?
Well, I read Dean Smith's book recently, Coach's Life, and one of the things he was proudest of is most of his players, even if they left early, came back and got a degree. In fact, I'm trying to remember which player it was. I think it was Jerry Stackhouse. He had a playoff game that night, and he came back for graduation because he wanted to be there for graduation. And he was criticized because he wasn't resting all day long. I mean, graduation wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't that strenuous, but that's how much it meant to his players. And he talked about how Michael Jordan and James Worthy, the things that they missed by leaving early is they really didn't get to have some of the perks that you get as a senior at North Carolina. You get to have your picture on the guidebook and that sort of thing. Your own special pages. And it may sound small to guys who are making tens of millions of dollars, but to them it was really important being part of the whole Carolina experience.
What do you think about Rivers coming out?
Well, obviously the salary cap changes in the NBA. There's going to be a certain amount of money available. We've seen him he can take the ball to the basket, terrific player. He can shoot the ball pretty well. Defensively, I think he's going to struggle a little bit at the beginning. But, but he's a great athlete, and he's a young kid. He'll move into the position.
I think it's a good move. I think it was a real good move going to Duke. I know Calipari tells parents, you could go to Duke or you can come here. If you go to Duke, you're going to have to play under a system. And you're going to have to do exactly what the coach wants you to do. You're going to have to play defense all the time. You're not going to get your opportunities to score, to shoot. You're going to have to play within the system. You come here, we're going to play more of an up-tempo game. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to do, what you do best. We're not going to put the restraints on you like a Duke program would. That Calipari's telling the parents that.
Well,
but I think that Rivers, that was the best thing that could happen to Rivers because he needed that structure.
Well, you have history in a certain sense with certain coaches. For example, the saying was that if you draft a player out of Indiana when Bobby Knight was there, what you see is what you get. Knight is such a fantastic coach, educating the players, teaching the players about all aspects of basketball. They don't get better. When they get to the pros, that's who they are. So, obviously, Indiana had some terrific players like Isaiah Thomas, for example. But for the most part, you don't say, gee, there were X number of guys who came out of Indiana were great pros. They were great college players, but, I think you're right that there probably wasn't that much more in it at Duke for Rivers, and I'm sure he'll do fine. The question is, now the Celtics obviously are moving down in the draft.
Yeah, they wouldn't have gotten him anyway. He's going one of the top 5.
You think?
People saying he could go 12 to 20. He's going top 5. Because these scouts, one of these teams are going to look at him and say, this kid here, he's going to be a 20-point scorer right off the bat. We play him a lot. He has talent that I haven't seen many college kids come out with.
Well,
he goes to the hoop like no one else.
Right.
And what's the best thing about him? He is way better than Rajon Rondo in the lane. Now, Rajon Rondo gets in the lane, he has no touch on his release. He'll flick the ball up in the air. He doesn't know. He has no idea where the ball is going to go.
Well, we're going to talk about the Celtics later.
No, but what I'm saying is now Rivers, when he gets in the lane, he's got all these releases. He has that one-handed little push shot, and he's got a beautiful touch. He can go right or left, either way, and he flicks the ball, and he finishes. And in the pros, you have more opportunities in the pros than you do in college.
Well, if you want to spend 3 minutes of your time to see great entertainment, go to YouTube and put in One Shining Moment, Luther Vandross, and at every conclusion of the men's tournament, there's a song with highlights from the tournament from the very beginning to the end. It's outstanding every year. And, if I had nothing better to do with 3 minutes and wanted to see great basketball, I have to watch that. I never get tired of watching One Shining Moment with Luther Vandross.
Well, they do that after every tournament, right?
After every tournament. So it's been there for at least the last dozen years. And someday, Ralph, maybe we'll have the video of Melrose winning a championship with One Shining Moment.
Yeah,
too.
that may happen. That may happen sooner than we think. Who knows?
Well, we'll be right back with our next segment.
On and off the court, Visionary Basketball Group delivers programs that empower players with skills for athletic and personal success. Our players undergo learning experiences that position them for positive lifelong achievement on and off the court. With a year-round training philosophy, VBG can assist you in reaching your full potential as a player with conditioning, basketball fundamentals, position-specific training, and skills and drills taught by the best coaches in New England. For more information, visit our website at visionarybasketball.com or drop into our new athletic performance center located at 152 Tremont Street, Melrose, Mass. VBG, complete your vision.
So, Tiger Woods is the best ever, is he? Greatest golfer that ever lived? Says who? Certainly not lately. Lately now it's about bashing him. I mean, look at where his life has gone. The guy can barely win a local tournament. Forget about majors. Where did he finish last week anyway? Did anyone even see him on Sunday? I don't think they even showed him on the telecast. Forget it. His life went downward ever since they find out how many girlfriends he had. And then his wife, I don't know, wrapped a 9-iron around his neck. I think it was a pigeon wedge, but doesn't matter. He wrapped his car around the pole. She wrapped a club around his neck, and it was all over. But you know something? How can he not be the greatest of all time? Isn't that what we do? I mean, newspaper writers, media, all this hyperbole. I mean, they just want these people to be the greatest of all time. But then again, I mean, celebrities, they can't even blow their nose without somebody snapping a photo of it and then someone else finding that napkin and selling it on eBay. That's what we've become as a society. But again, though, is Tiger the greatest of all time? I don't know. He's certainly the most famous, though. I mean, you think about ice skating rinks after Bobby Orr became famous. I couldn't get on the golf course after Tiger Woods got famous. There was the same thing. There were people lined up to play. Good for him in that regard, bringing some attention to the sport. Let's talk about somebody that might really be the greatest of all time. Jack Nicklaus, for instance. Was he the greatest? 18 majors. Imagine he won 18 major tournaments. You think about somebody like Arnold Palmer and all these other guys, single digits. And they were his contemporaries. They were the people that pushed him. But guess what? Jack Nicklaus finished second 19 times in majors. You can't say that about Tiger Woods. Tiger was great when he was great. When he wasn't great, he was middle of the pack. Meanwhile, Jack Nicklaus, he was always in the top 10. He was always in the hunt. But if not Jack, who else can you talk about? I mean, let's think about it. How about Walter Hagen? Let's take him, for instance. You ever hear of Walter Hagen? Not Ben Hogan. Think about this. 11 majors. And then he quit the PGA because he realized he could make more money playing amateur. All right? So think about that for a minute. Walter Hagen. And speaking of Ben Hogan, the guy had the most perfect golf swing of all time. 64 tour wins he had. 9 majors. And the perfect golf swing, which I wish I had. But we can name others. Sam Snead. I mean, think about Sam Snead. How many majors that guy won? He won more tournaments than anybody. More pro tournaments than anybody that ever lived. And he's not even in the conversation. 82, okay? You think about some of these guys, what they accomplished, and it's like they fade away over time because right now it's, oh, it's Tiger, it's Tiger. Well, nobody's talking about Tiger anymore. And you know what? Honestly, my point isn't that they should ignore Tiger Woods. My point is that every time someone great comes along, they're looking to put him up on a pedestal. And then as soon as they fall because we push them off. Okay? So as far as I'm concerned, I'm glad that he brought golf to a good level. But ever since he got that wedge wrapped around his neck, it just hasn't been the same for him.
Athletic Evolution, giving you the edge.
Welcome back. It's the 100th anniversary of the Titanic. How timely. The Red Sox season has begun, and there's got to be a morning after. The Red Sox went to Detroit. It was total calamity, catastrophe, a 3-game sweep. And then they went to Toronto, almost as bad, losing 2 out of 3. Today, the Red Sox will not lose. They have an open date. And tomorrow's the home opener. What do you think, Ralph?
Well, as a Yankee fan, I really feel bad for the Red Sox. I'll tell you, last year when the Red Sox got off to 0-6, I was in the hospital. I couldn't enjoy it. This year, I'm really enjoying it. No, I do feel bad. I would have loved it. I'm the type of fan who would love to see the Red Sox and Yankees battle it out. I think that there's a chance that neither team makes the playoffs this year.
Well, I predicted to people before the season that the Red Sox would not make the playoffs. To me, the 5 best teams are Los Angeles, Texas, Detroit, Tampa, and the Yankees. And the Red Sox are somewhere below. It would not shock me to see Toronto beat out the Red Sox.
Beat out the Yankees. I've really been watching the Yankees and looking at what they have. They're a dull team, Ron. They really are. And when you look at, they're just a team that just very rarely comes up with big hits in key situations. They win because they have talent. They have talent. They have a $180 million payroll. There's plenty of talent on the team. Problem with the Yankees is they're not winners.
Well,
and the Red Sox are starting to show that they don't have winners.
We've just had the NCAA tournament. The Celtics have had some terrific games lately. And then you watch a baseball game, it's boring. You get bored to tears. The good thing is you can read a book, you can do something else, but baseball's got to do something.
Well, yeah, I usually love baseball season. Like I told you before, I like watching the Yankees playing, and I like putting the Red Sox on. I like some of the players. I like Pedroia. I like Ellsbury, although Ellsbury's leaving. He's gone when he's a free agent. He's not going to re-sign with the Red Sox. He's had it with them, the way they treated him with the injury and all that, and then giving Crawford $20 million, and he was making $3.5. That was a complete joke. We can get into that too.
Well, what I find disturbing is you watch the pitchers throw. They can't throw the ball over the plate, so you're watching 5 innings and you're watching 100 pitches. I understand that the hitters are talented. You can't be challenging them all the time, but watching Bard, I just don't see Bard as being a successful starter. Maybe he'll be fine. I'm not seeing it.
But when baseball it really becomes fun when the weather gets warm. When you get out of April and into May and the weather's warm, and the Red Sox are going to go on a streak. They have too much talent.
Well, talk about what you see. If you think back to the 80s, Jim Rice pretty much lost it overnight. Part of it was vision, but your reflexes slow down. Sometimes the cumulative effect of a lot of games, a lot of injuries catch up with you. So you're not the same player. And if you look at the Red Sox lineup, the one player who looks nothing like he used to is Kevin Youkilis. To me, his bat speed is atrocious. The announcers, or you watch the Twitter feed, it says, wow, that was a great at-bat that Youkilis had. He had 9 pitches. Well, he had 5 down the middle that he couldn't hit, and he fouled them off. Great hitters damage mistakes. And I'm very concerned, and I understand that's a small sample size, that Kevin Youkilis may be done.
If he's healthy, he'll be all right. The Youkilis, he's been hurt the last 2 years, but if he's healthy, he's going to hit.
Well,
he's still young, Ron. He's going to hit.
He didn't hit at spring training, and so far he looks terrible.
Yeah, but don't forget, he was out last year.
Well, I know. So,
but Youkilis is, again, as a Yankee fan looking at the Red Sox, he's one of their clutch players when he gets going.
He was one of the top 10 offensive players in the American League when he was doing well. And, it pains me to watch him, flailing away up there.
But, I told you last year before the first game, I said that Red Sox fans should not be happy about Gonzalez and Crawford coming to the Red Sox and the Red Sox losing Vemont and Beltre. Because what Red Sox fans didn't understand, there's $17 million they're losing there, and neither player's a winner.
Well, I
don't care what Gonzalez stats are, he's not a winner.
They tried to bring in, quote, character guys with Cody Ross and Nick Punto. Well, the problem is they're not able to carry the team. A guy like Punto is a
Well,
utility
you're blowing
player.
all this money on these other players, and you're bringing in these players. It's just like the Yankees. The Yankees have the highest payroll in baseball. The Red Sox, I think, have the third now, third or fourth. And you're blowing money. I mean, Gonzalez, $24 million. Come on. Gonzalez is a stats man. All right? He's not a leader. I mean, what's wrong with Epstein? I mean, doesn't he see this? Vmart is more of a leader than Gonzalez, and he's half the money. They could have got Vmart for $12 million.
The problem is he's got a torn ACL.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he
He's
got
out-
hurt. I mean, you can't look at that stuff. He
know.
wasn't hurt when they did it. And then they let Beltre go. They could have signed him for $14 or $15 million for 4 years. They let Beltre go. They bring a power-hitting right-handed batter, and they bring it run.
Well, that's because they have Middlebrooks at AAA.
But they let Beltre go, and they bring in Crawford for $20 million, a left-handed hitter who's good, quick on the bases. That's his best asset. And you don't run at Fenway Park because of the power the Sox supposedly have.
Well,
so you're not going to be able to use his assets there. And he's playing left field, so his speed is useless out there in left field.
Well,
I mean, what are they thinking about?
I won't argue the lack of merit of Crawford, but I think they saw Middlebrooks behind Youkilis and Beltre, and Middlebrooks is the future at third base.
But then again, what people don't realize, now, you were better off with Beltre and Vmart. All right, a healthy Vmart. Switch hitter and right-handed power hitter and bringing in two lefties when you already have Ortiz and Ellsbury. Then you lose 4 of your top prospects to bring in Gonzalez when you could have used those 4 top prospects for a top-notch pitcher or an outfielder, another power-hitting outfielder. I mean, Theo Epstein totally screwed up this team.
Well, the sample size is small. You know, I think everyone knows that Lester is one of the top pitchers in the American League. Buchholz, it's going to take him a while to come back. Beckett, I don't know. Beckett was throwing 92, and he didn't have great location. I'm more concerned about the 92 than the location on one game. And we'll see. You know,
it's all about leadership, Ron.
My sources have just said that a lot of these players, once they get the big contract, then they don't really care that much anymore.
You don't have – this is what you have. You have Ellsbury. He had a great year last year. Not a leader. He could care less about the guys. He knows he's going. He's down in the Red Sox. You know, he's worrying about himself. Good guy, but they burnt him, all right? So he's not going to be – Pedroia's a leader. Crawford's a baby. Gonzalez is a baby. He's a baby. He's not a leader. He just wants his stats, right? He's crying. He was crying about 2 different things the other day, about the media and this and that. I mean, he's not a leader. Ortiz is going to be gone, and especially if he gets off the juice.
Well, the only guy that you can feel really great seeing him out there is Pedroia. I mean, the guy's always killing himself trying to be successful.
But you don't run there like the Yankees. They have a ton of talent, though. You know, you look at them. They have a ton of Ellsbury, Pedroia, Gonzalez, Ortiz, Youkilis,
the problem is
Crawford when he comes back.
The problem is even when you have talent, you want players that
winners.
Well, you want players that you can really root for, that you like. Like when we talk about the Celtics, I can really root for a guy like Avery Bradley. The guy is just a bundle of energy, plays hard every moment he's out there.
And how about Steensma?
Yeah.
Steensma.
Whereas on the Red Sox, you just don't get a good feeling watching this team right now.
But a lot of my friends, people I work with, are really down on them. You know, a lot of them could care less about Friday, but they'll sell out. I mean, but you know, it's kind of a shame. It's really a shame what happened at the end of the year. Because as again, a Yankee fan, and you as a Red Sox fan, you want to see the Yankees and Red Sox battle. There's nothing like both of those teams playing in the playoffs. But I mean, if the Red Sox don't get it right, I mean, that's going to be a disgrace. In all the years I've watched sports, if the Red Sox team doesn't come back and put it together, I mean, that's probably the biggest disgrace in sports I've seen.
Well, maybe we'll have to eat our words, but early on, there's several players that are really struggling. Obviously, Saltalamacchia looks abysmal right now at the plate. Youkilis, you know, Avila's, I think he's fine as a utility player, as an everyday player. Yeah. You know, he doesn't have great range. You know, I think if their struggles continue, we'll probably see Lavarnway back. I don't understand the Shopik move at all. I think Lavarnway is better than he is.
But you know what I'd like to ask the Red Sox fans, really, Ron? I mean, when you look at it, why lose Papelbon? If he did the right thing, Epstein, with the money situation and the players they had, and if he used his head, they would have been able to sign Papelbon for the next 4 years. What kills the team, when I look at the Red Sox now, and I say, well, as a Yankee fan, well, the Red Sox could put it together. I mean, they have the hitting. except on the end of the order. They have the pitching if it all comes together. They don't have the relief pitcher. They don't have the stopper anymore. How could they let that happen, Ron? You look at it. You throw away all this money on guys you didn't have to throw it away on. You could have had Papelbon. You could have got another good pitcher if you had that $17 million, and then you had your 4 top prospects that you gave away from Gonzalez.
Well, I think they were thinking that if Bailey weren't hurt, which obviously he is, that they really had an adequate closer. Now they have no closer for a few months.
And then the Yankees, I don't know how Cashman couldn't understand that the Yankees will never win the World Series with this group they have now. They'll never, ever win the World Series. They won't even win a playoff. With this group, he gave away to one guy that could have turned that whole team around, Montero, for Pineda, who's out with a sore arm. And we said that. How can you give away the top prospect in baseball, power-hitting prospect, for Pineda, who had a 5-point-something ERA, in the biggest field, in the biggest stadium in the league in the second half of the year? You're giving up the top prospect in baseball coming out. Power hit great for the Yankees at the end of the year for a guy like Pineda when they had enough pitching. And when they get in the playoffs, these guys, none of them are winners. Montero would have helped them in the middle of that lineup. And for Cashman not to understand that, they're going to be burnt for the next year. It's because they have Rodriguez and Teixeira.
Well, they have some young pitchers. Benuelos and is it Betances?
But you have to score runs, Ron.
Oh, I know, I understand. But they've got young pitchers that are out. I mean, I don't know about Pineda, but Nova's a very talented young pitcher. They get Benuelos and Betances in the minors that are not far away. But I agree. There's a lot of the big market teams end up getting stuck with bad contracts. A-Rod for 6 more years. I mean,
and Teixeira. People don't realize Teixeira's going to hit 250. 30 home runs, 110 RBIs, right? Because he'll go up against the mediocre pitching. He'll hit in the games. There's tons of games. I mean, there's only 18 games against the Red Sox and in Tampa Bay. And then you play Detroit so many. Well, and the rest of the games you're going against mediocre pitching. That's when he hits.
I think we don't, if you're a young individual, you're 18 years old or 25 years old, you look at a lot of these guys and say, well, these guys are superstars. They're great players. Well, when we were growing up, you saw Frank Robinson, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. I mean, guys that were, not only Hall of Famers, but the top of the Hall of Fame players. And how many of those guys are there around now? I mean, Pujols is an outstanding player. He's the top of the top. But beyond that,
well, Cabrera, Cabrera and Fielder for Detroit will hit in the big games.
Right.
Cabrera showed that. So when the Yankees go up against Detroit, if they make it to the playoffs, they're going to lead their team. And the other guys will hit because of them. Well, the Yankees don't have anybody. I know you like Cano. I told you before, Cano, Yankees up 2-0 first and second in the 8th inning, he'll hit a 3-run homer. Put him up 5-0. Yankees down 2-0 in the 8th inning, he'll get up with 2 men on base, he'll strike out or pop up. I have seen it so much with him. I've seen it with, this team, you talk about the Red Sox fans disliking the Red Sox team. This Yankee team is just about a disaster when you think about it. They don't win. They don't hit in key situations. No, I just see it so much, Ron. When you see it in almost every game, and they win the games because they have talent, and they'll jump ahead of a team 3-1, 4-0. They have enough pitching. And then if they're up 3-4-1, Teixeira will get up with 2 men on, hit 3-run homer.
Well, I like to see a lot of young players play, guys who have a lot of potential or hungry players. The third baseman on Toronto, Lowry, I really like watching that guy play. He's playing really hard. I'm not saying he's an all-star player, but he's going to be a really solid player.
And that Ayala, is it Ayala for Detroit?
Avila
for Detroit, is it?
Yeah, the catcher.
He's a good player. He's a clutch player. How about the players on Kansas City? Kansas City's got some real good young hitters. Yeah, I'll have to see them on the Yankees.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of interesting baseball this season. But right now, we can focus on basketball. The Celtics are in the midst of a brutal streak where they have, starting tomorrow, a back-to-back-to-back 3-game road trip. But I'd pretty much given up for dead a few weeks ago. And
everybody had.
And what can you say? Kevin Garnett, we understand it's contract year, but he's shooting like, Rick Mount or something. The guy is just draining it.
I have never, ever seen anything like this. 36 years old, playing the way he's playing. every second he's out there, giving everything he has. Now you compare that to what we were just talking about, coming through in the clutch. I mean, he's been unbelievable. The other day when he hit the 5 jump shots.
Well, they were tremendous against Miami. Miami, they had blown them out earlier. Miami wanted to make a statement at home, and the Celtics, every time Miami tried to do something, they responded.
That was the best game they've played in 3 years. It was unbelievable.
You know, I mean, and Miami has a really good defense.
But what are you seeing this year? I mean, I'm looking at Rondo, and you know, I'm not a big Rondo fan. And lately, he's been playing real good.
He's been playing a lot better lately.
You know, and he's you know, he still throws the stupid passes at times, but you know.
Well, he's not making as many of the fancy Dan, you know, showy plays just because he can make them. He's making much more sensible basketball plays. But you know, to me, the guy that's made the difference is Bradley. Bradley, the block he had on Wade a couple of weeks ago. That was one of the great defensive plays you're ever going to see.
Well, you see what Wade and LeBron James said?
No.
I mean, number one, they said, you know, I don't know why these people really, are down on the Celtics. The Celtics are a team you really have to be concerned about. You know, even before this streak they've gone on, we were concerned about the Celtics. And he goes, and you got guys like Bradley coming in, you know, and playing in Steamsma with the minutes they give the Celtics.
They track points allowed per 100 possessions. And Garnett and Rondo together have been averaging 88 points, which is about 20% below the average in the NBA. 20 points per 100 possessions that's a lot of points. Now, Bradley and Rondo together, it goes to about 25% lower. So Bradley harasses the dribbler, and that allows Rondo to come in and try to make steals and deflections.
Well, what it does to Rondo is it makes Rondo play harder, but. You know, it's funny. I'm watching games, and at times I said, well, geez, Rondo came off that pick well. And it's Bradley. You know, I'm not paying attention as well. And I say, oh, that's Bradley. Because we're used to Rondo. He doesn't work through picks like Bradley does. He doesn't work hard on them. He loses his man, and he hopes that the big guys can pick him up down low. Bradley just beats it every time.
For our young players, you watch Bradley is all over the player, on the ball. And when he doesn't, offensively, moves without the ball, constantly trying to cut to the basket for, you know, he recognizes who he is, that Garnett and other players will get him the ball on easy baskets.
Rivers' toughest decision is going to be when they get into the playoffs, in the key situations, do I keep Allen in the game or do I put Bradley in for him? I know Bradley should be in here now, but how do I take Allen out of the game? You know, and that's going to be a key because he should have did it the other night and he didn't do it. Last night. And they almost lost the game. Well, Allen wasn't in last night.
Right.
Against Miami, he should have did it. When Miami was making a run on them.
You know, for people who are really not so much basketball aficionados, Bradley came from Texas, and Texas is notorious for their outstanding perimeter defense. You know, the Celtics are really good defending the three, and even the last play in regulation. When I can't remember the guy who took the three-point shot or the outside shot trying to win the game. Bradley was all over him, trying to.
He gets the loose balls. He runs he just does so many better things than Allen now.
Well, it's the difference between being 21 years old and
how about
50.
But how about Steamsma too? He's been unreal runs.
Somebody said to me about Steamsma, compare Steamsma to Perkins. Steamsma's a better shot blocker. Steamsma's probably a better passer. He's got a better shot.
Better foul shooter.
So, to me, he's as good as Perkins.
And he's learning from Garnett how to handle the picks. He's coming out and attack. See, I noticed Bass doesn't do it well. Bass lets the guard split him, you know, in the pick. Steams was very good at that. You know, of course, he's not as strong as Perkins down low. Perkins' main asset is down low against the big people. He's very good with his footwork and his body, you know, and he keeps real good position on them. So he's very good defensively down low. But other than that, Steamsma beats him in every category.
There's 4 or 5 ways to defend the pick. You go over the top, you jam the screener and the guard goes under. You switch, what they call show or fake trap. You trap, or else you can bring somebody from the corner to try to switch lower. But the Celtics like to do what Krzyzewski calls the fake trap, where the big guy pops out, tries to force the dribbler toward the sideline, east and west, and then recover back to the player. And Garnett's absolutely the best at doing that.
He's unbelievable. You know, with Steensma, he's teaching Steensma. Bass has got to get better at that. Bass is playing great, but he's got to get better at that part of it. But, you know, what I'm real happy about is, and again, you know, I'm happy with the way Rondo is playing now, but I'm thinking, are these teams just, I mean, they don't game plan because they don't have practices because all the games are so close together. And some teams have played 2, 3 games in 4 nights. So how many of these games are they meeting these teams? Because they're not playing the type of defense that they have in the past. They're letting Rondo basically run the show in this last stretch, you know, where they're not playing that half-court tough defense, where Rondo's not at his best, where Pierce should be handling the ball more.
Well, you know, Rondo's cut the turnovers down, and you know, he's made some shots. I have to give the guy credit when he's.
He was 3 for 18 last night, but he still played pretty good. His shots wasn't going down, but you know, he shouldn't be taking 18 shots either. But he had 20 assists.
Right.
But I mean, I could have 20 assists on that team, I think. I mean, you know what was funny? He had 14 assists, I believe, against Miami, or 16. Well, 5 of them came in the 4th period, just throwing the ball into Garnett.
Well, who's the guy we haven't talked about on the Celtics?
Oh, Pierce?
Pierce. He's just so steady.
He's playing great.
He's not fast. He doesn't jump really high. He's really wide, but he's averaging.
Smart.
Oh gosh, you know the types. The other day against Miami, he made that one turnaround, impossible shot. I mean, he makes it look easy.
But you know the funny thing is, he's getting in better shape. He's still not in great shape. By the time the playoffs come, he's going to be in his best condition because you could see it. He's still a little heavier than he normally is. You know, usually he looks real good, you know, when you see him on the floor. But he's moving a lot better.
Well, like you say, if you could put Pierce's brain in some of these young guys' bodies, they'd be world beaters.
But look what he did. You know, even though James scored 30-something points, you know, a lot of those points came, well, with him not on him at times, but a lot of those points came on those crazy off-balance jump shots.
Well, the other thing about James is that traveling doesn't apply to him.
See that one move?
He took 4 steps.
And then they call the foul on Steensma, too, on that one play. He takes 4 steps, runs into Steensma.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left to talk about high school. I don't think we mentioned that Jalen Adams and Matt Sherlock both got named all-league players in the small division. Adams, as you know, is departing for Wilbraham and Munson in the private school area. And, you know, the Melrose girls track team had a phenomenal 81-56 rout of Reading, which is one of the perennial strong teams in Middlesex League. So congratulations to girl track.
They're becoming a powerhouse, Ron.
Yeah,
and to get back to Adams and Sherlock, I think Adams leaving. I think Sherlock. Remember, I feel that Adams really Sherlock let Adams do his thing and kind of went into the background a little. And Sherlock has a ton of talent. I'm looking for Sherlock to have the season Adams had this year, next year. Sherlock, he's got that much talent.
Well, we'll see. He's probably going to get double-teamed a lot as the talent, unless there's a lot of talent coming up that we haven't been privy to.
But another team I've watched is the girls' lacrosse team. I've done a couple of their games. It's been fun. You know, we don't know lacrosse. I mean, we went to that pro all-star game we went last year. But, you know, it's been fun watching them. I've enjoyed the 2 games that I did was the Woburn and Burlington games. And Woburn was really good. Woburn had some of the basketball players, Marshall, you know, and McGuire, and they were 2 of their best players. And Burlington had some good players, and both teams were real good. They executed the game real well. You know, Melrose, I mean, they battled. I mean, they got hit pretty good by both teams, but both games they played much better in the second half. And we got a little Maeve Moriarty, a sophomore. I mean, she's got talent. There are sisters on the team. You know, I can't name all of them, McBride and Hinkle and Hess, the goalie. I mean, they have talent there. It's fun to watch. I've enjoyed sometimes, except for the whistles, Ron. There's too many whistles, but it's all about protecting the girls. But it's a fun sport. I'm getting to start, you know, I'm enjoying it.
Well, certainly there's a lot of young lacrosse players coming up. So the team will be strong in the near future. Right. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.